Today I'll be showing you how to win in Frontlines and make the correct call at any given time regardless of map or situation. It can be difficult to keep track of all the information in a match. But with just a few simple rules, we can make the decisions ourselves to help secure a win. After this video, you'll be able to assess the battle at a glance of the map and quickly determine the best strategy not only for your team, but the enemy as well. Let me just preface by saying I'm no authority on military strategy, and there are many experts who have done incredible work detailing the subject that I know absolutely nothing about, including Sun Tzu's 13 Principles, Napoleon's 115 Maxims, or my favorite saying, get there firstest with the mostest. No, my experience comes from years of MMO video games, playing PvP game modes against other sweaters yelling at their teams in Ventrilo. One in particular I draw a lot of comparison to Frontline's 24v24v24 mode is the world versus world system from Guild Wars 2, but that might be for another video. And although this may seem like a military tactics class, you don't have to take a competitive role or go commanding way with this information. You may simply use this as a guideline for your own understanding and progression in Frontlines. With that out of the way, let's get started. After the match starts, you can divide the field into priority and danger zones for each team using their home base as an anchor point. The closer you are to your spawn, the stronger you are due to your shorter supply route, and vice versa. The first level, green, is your home field. This zone should always remain between your team and home base. Never allow it to be invaded, and any contained node should remain in your control. Small Havoc groups should split for fresh captures when the main Zerg is fighting elsewhere for a contested node. You should aim to never ever lose these. The second level, yellow, is the contesting zone. This is the most important area, as your team will spend the majority of its time and manpower fighting for control of these zones, as they contain nodes that border each team's field and will determine who has control and is able to snowball. This zone will constantly change, and you will need to adjust your positioning and react accordingly to keep your green zone uninvaded, your yellow zone nodes contested, and your flanks protected from a pinch. The third level, red, is the danger zone. This zone is closest to enemy spawn, and therefore any battle taking place here will be an inevitable retreat or loss. Nodes here likely cannot be held long for this reason, and it's usually too deep to maintain a defense without being pinched. Typically, being here is overextending and should only be used to momentarily press the enemy back for a nearby node or battle-high pinch pressure before quickly retreating. Your objective is to keep your team in the yellow zone at all times while holding pressure on both enemy flanks, not overextending into red and not falling back into green. The ideal situation is a tri-stalemate, all three teams holding position and vie for openings. With our zones laid out as a base, we can make a decision on spawns following this priority: location, time, and score. Where the nodes spawn is most important. Priority goes to proximity from your base, thanks to following our zone rules, and should typically answer your question. The time it takes for both your team and an enemy team to arrive at a location and effectively pressure it should be considered next if a decision wasn't reached. And only lastly should the score of each team be considered if the first two conditions don't matter. Spending time where you can't be effective is wasting time, in my opinion. However, I'll finish this part by saying to remember that these are general guidelines to aid how you think about the map or weight of choices, and will change in some actual matches. Sometimes in a late game, your entire team may just push deep into an enemy to hold their only possible node for points to catch up, for instance. Now I'll give two match examples, the first being a simulated hypothetical to demonstrate a wrong choice, and the second will be a recorded example of a near-perfect game. The map is Seal Rock Seas. You start yellow in the southeast, red up north, and blue is southwest. The first round of nodes despawn. Blue is contesting mid and north from their side with 300 points, red is contesting north and east field from their side with 50 points, you are contesting mid and east field from your side with 200 points. Triangle spawns east field under you, northeast overpass under red, a diamond at north between red and blue, and a diamond at mid-cliff in blue's green zone. Blue, winning, will initially swarm onto north, rezzers and divergers heading to their mid. Red will initially take the ridge, but will want to move to the nearby north diamond. If your team then pushes mid or north against the winning team for a higher node out of reach, it will incentivize red to fall back from north and push south into east field. For both triangles, you overextend and cut off your safe route of reinforcements from home, opening you up for a pinch in battle you will eventually lose. All this time gaining no points, only losing in deaths while the other two teams climb. Your only option is to pressure red on their northeast ridge for their less valuable triangle, incentivizing them to push for north, incentivizing blue to prioritize their home diamond. Your two triangles gain more points than winning blue's single diamond, and the losing team far behind, draining the other diamond for not much worry. The next example is a time skip of the map activity where our team played near perfectly within the guidelines given here. Starting off, we want to help mid hold for as long as possible, sending Havoc groups to take field side nodes. If the enemy team is slow to respond, then your Havoc groups will meet less resistance and can now go in small groups for nearest captures. Remember to use the pressure of other teams at the right times to force value decisions for your enemy to create advantage. When new nodes spawn, their location will decide which team to pressure based on who is giving up manpower. Don't move to nodes from mid immediately. If a team retreats too hard, this is the perfect target to push and begin the snowball. Make sure to get every win that you should throughout a match, and it will quickly turn into a dominating lead in both points and battle high. Zoning and control will get easier and easier as the game goes on. And even though it seems like we were very lucky with some of these spawns, most of them could have been fully contested and completely lost if an enemy team moved correctly. Now that we've established when and where to move, let's discuss how, or simply actually winning the Zerg fights and node contests. Always engage and hold from your side of the field. Your goal in this tri-split mode is to use the other two teams as much as you fight with your own. The team who manipulates and positions better wins. In this situation, your goal is to make picks, AoE, and CC while rotating out of pressure and into openings. When one team overextends, your response should be to rotate into the opposite team with your temporary retreat, not into your green zone and sacrificing pressure. Front load your damage dumps on out of position, chasing, split, or CC targets to make a pinch. Once downs or lows are created, smite targets, then push in with CC and cleave, abusing all utility and support to stay unflinchingly healthy while the enemy team struggles to retreat. The more competitive and experienced players on your team want these tri-mates and will be effective if you give them windows. The goal for the team is to keep stable and not give up pressure. Eventually the openings will win out in value. Like mentioned earlier, I may do an in-depth sequel if this video is received well, explaining the strategies of advanced coordination from JP servers showcased here for all maps, and perhaps relate my own experience from World v World commanding. But for now, here are some AoE sequences for jobs I personally enjoy pushing with in Frontlines. If you found any of this useful, please consider the clicky. Thank you.